shift that you talked about from materials to technology to the quantum computing to things. My question to you is, as a CXO of any organization, what is it that will change for them? What part of this new technology affects you?
So you're asking, what part of the S10, I talked about these 10 convergent technologies yesterday in our keynote, you're asking how will that impact organizations fundamentally?
Yes, and especially the CXOs.
Yeah, so what will happen is that, fundamentally, if you look at traditional organizations, they're very structured, kind of siloed and vertical. And that kind of organizational chart is definitely going to change to something very agile and horizontal. The organizational levels that used to exist, middle managers, are effectively going to be disappearing. So it's a much flatter organization. So I think of it more as an AI-enabled, flat, agile-centric organization, somewhat compressed, very network-oriented in terms of hiring. Then that's going to make a difference as well, because you're looking for people who have a variety of different kinds of skills, very more interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary. So again, you're seeing this movement from it's siloed and very title-driven to very interdisciplinary-driven, and everyone is going to have to own some elements of the safety, the ethical, the algorithmic aspect of the technology. So everybody has to take a piece of that. And so that's going to change organizations, and it's going to happen really, really quickly. So keep in mind, I work with CEOs every day, multinational CEOs, and I'm back in 2020. I was asked by a private multinational CEO organization if I could join their private executive committee. And they said, Stephen, and this was in June 2020, what are the fundamental changes? And I said, AI is going to really fundamentally affect how you operate, how you interact with the community, how you go to access talent, and you're going to be mindful of that. So they really transitioned back from 2020 to make it really AI native. And then they actually then created a talent collaborative called the National Talent Collaborative, working with 37 other CEO-based organizations. In fact, in New York, at one of our meetings, actually Jamie Dimon was one of the chairs, and of course he's the head of JP Morgan Chase and the Bank of America there. So from at least from the North American standpoint, there's this sort of movement to sort of really flatten. And that's why you're even seeing amongst the big tech companies now layoffs, right? They're eliminating basically middle management because it's becoming much flatter in terms of organizational structure.
Fantastic. That leads me very nicely to Harish. Harish, thank you for joining. Thank you. You have a lot of different kinds of clients that you work with. We had this traditional functional organization which started to evolve into more, let's say, the modern matrix organization. Where do you see from your experience this changes in the fundamental way things are getting done as a process in an organization? How people were getting things done earlier to how they're getting it done now, and how it's affecting these new structures that you see in clients?
So I think two things here. I think we see the speed is different in different parts of the world, and again within India the speed is different between parts of India. So if you were to go to South India, they're probably far ahead in automating, and the speed is faster. Whereas if you come to eastern part of India, we're slightly lagging behind, not that significantly, but we're slightly behind. But I'm very excited at this, when I talk to clients, particularly in eastern India, and many of them tend to be family businesses. This region is more family businesses than structure. We do have a few large organizations, but everybody is very keen to use technology to become more efficient. And yes, there are some downsides of layoffs, but that's happening in mature markets. If you look at our market, paucity of talent, and people have been struggling to get stuff done because they didn't have the right talent, and they're actually able to bridge the gap using this technology. So for the clients that I interact with, it's actually more a plus than a minus.
Okay, just hanging on to that point. If I look back traditionally, in an organization, somebody becomes a CXO, CIO, CISO, CTO, etc., because they put in a certain number of years of experience. Now, I think this kind of technologies kind of recalibrate everything and puts everybody at ground zero. So, how do you see one from a perspective of the role to be fulfilled, experiences versus the exposure of the person? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. We were responding to a public sector bid, and they always say that we have to give so many people with so much experience. And I remember there was one requirement, somebody with cloud experience of 15 years. So I was like, find that person, I'd love to hire him, or her. But I think it's very interesting. I think we are able to hire a lot of young people who are, so-called digital natives, and they are far more comfortable with, the new technology, with AI. And I think they are able to make us far more efficient than we could. And again, going back to my theory about the whole talent gap, you see, when India started taking off 25 years ago, we were lucky that we brought in a lot of expats back from the Western world who helped bridge that gap at the senior level. But I think increasingly we will not have to rely on people coming back. We can just train our younger people up, and they'll be ready to take on this mantle of driving technology forward. And coming back to your thing about CXOs, over the years the age of CXOs has reduced. So there's no reason why our next CDO is not 25 years old.
Yeah, that's interesting. So people in the room, please gear up for this fact what this study said. And I think that's going to be the new reality as well. Having said that, Stephen, just pinging on that point, when you make decisions, one of the things CXOs make a lot is decisions. So when you make decisions in investing in a company, in a startup, let's say, like Hari said, because things are so new, there are a lot of digitally native people who might not have 25 years experience, but they know what they are doing. What do you base your decisions on when you invest in a new team, when you put money?
Okay, so you're asking, things are changing so quickly and so fluid, and I'm an investor, right? I'm a global investor. I actually sit across investment groups that are CEO-led. I have multiple funds of my own, vehicles. I actually work in sovereign funding as well. And I work in the UN system with funding. So what are we looking for in terms of investments in startups and things like that, right? So what we're really looking for, and really this is the translation that has to occur amongst enterprises as well. What do you see when you have a startup? You have people who are very agile, willing to wear many hats at the same time, very fluid in the roles that they take on. They're constantly measuring and reacting and then trying to anticipate in real time. That's like a new operating system. So just kind of taking it one different sort of layer. So that's really what enterprises need to do now. Think be more fluid, be more agile. So those same kind of things that I look for in a startup, I'm looking for how agile are they? Is the team willing to be flexible? Monitoring signals outside on the edge? Are they thinking in a combinatorial way? In other words, are they looking at different pieces of information, connecting it in real time? Are they willing to follow those signals and then adjust in real time? Those are the things that I look for, and grit. In other words, perseverance, dedication, hard work, the entrepreneur